All right, let's dive into one of the most famous places in all of mythology, the mysterious island of Avalon. Now, for centuries, we've known it as the final resting place of the legendary King Arthur. But how did this one island get such a massive reputation? Well, that's what we're going to figure out. So if you're at all familiar with the tales of King Arthur, you probably think you know the answer to this, right? After that last brutal battle at Camelot, where was the dying king taken?
Of course, he was whisked away to the magical island of Avalon to be cured. It's this epic story of hope and mystery. But, and this is a big but, the original story of Avalon was something else entirely. To really get what Avalon is all about, we have to basically become literary detectives. We've got to trace this legend all the way back to its first appearances. And trust me, this story we find is so much more complex and frankly, way more interesting than you think.
So this is the big question, right? The name Avalon didn't just pop up out of nowhere, fully formed with all its magic and healing powers. No, it had its own journey, evolving through different stories and different writers.
Now get this, the earliest known mention of Avalon, from around the year 1130, has absolutely nothing to do with King Arthur. Seriously, a French poem just mentions it as a place known for being incredibly rich. It's not until a few years later that a writer named Geoffrey of Monmouth connects the island to Arthur for the very first time.
So let's just put these two side by side. The first Avalon is like a treasure chest, a source of gold. The second one, Geoffrey of Monmouth's idea, is this master forge, the place where Arthur's sword Excalibur was made. Both point to a place known for precious metals and amazing craftsmanship. But notice what's totally missing, right? There's no talk of healing, or magic, or powerful sisters. Not yet anyway.
Okay, so this is where that guy, Geoffrey of Monmouth, becomes our key figure. He wasn't just writing things down, he was a true literary architect. He was building this epic foundational history for Britain. And in doing that, he took the name Avalon and just completely transformed it. Later, in that exact same book where he says Excalibur was forged, Geoffrey adds this new, super dramatic twist to Arthur's story. It's just one sentence, but it's a sentence that would literally change everything. And this is the real game changer. Geoffrey writes that Arthur was mortally wounded and then taken to Avalon to be cured. Wait a minute. Think about that. How can you be cured of a fatal wound? It's our first real clue that Avalon isn't just an island of blacksmiths. It's a place where the normal rules of life and death just don't apply. This takes Arthur from being just a fallen hero to being the once and future king.
But Geoffrey wasn't finished, not by a long shot. He had planted this incredible idea, and he let it simmer for over a decade. Then he came back to it in a new book, ready to paint a much, much clearer picture of this magical place.
In his Life of Merlin, he gives us the whole shebang. He calls Avalon the Isle of Apples, this paradise where food just grows on its own and people live to be over 100. And, this is crucial, he says it's ruled by 9 sisters, led by the incredibly powerful sorceress and healer Morgan, who, yep, you guessed it, we now know as Morgan Le Fay. Suddenly, the idea of healing a fatal wound starts to make a whole lot more sense. So you have to wonder, was Geoffrey just making all this up? Or was he tapping into something way, way older? Well, the clues all point to him drawing from this deep well of ancient Celtic myths. His vision of this magical island ruled by 9 powerful women, it wasn't a total invention. In fact, it's almost like he had a blueprint that was written down more than 1,000 years before he was even born. Just look at this comparison. It's absolutely wild. A Roman writer, way back in 43 CE, describes an island called Senna, home to 9 priestesses who could heal incurable wounds and even change their shape. 1,100 years later, Geoffrey describes Avalon, home to 9 sisters who can heal and perform magic. The number, the gender, the powers, I mean, come on. The parallels are just too striking to be a coincidence.
Okay, but here's where it gets even more interesting. While Geoffrey was popularizing his version of the story, there was this other, much older Welsh tradition that told a completely different tale. And in that story, Arthur's relationship with the magical otherworld wasn't about healing at all. It was about war.
This contrast is just fascinating. In this very old Welsh poem, Arthur is this fierce warlord. He leads a raid on the otherworld, Anwen, to try and steal a magical cauldron. He's an invader, this powerful, almost reckless figure. But Geoffrey's Arthur, he's the complete opposite. He's passive, a wounded king being taken to the otherworld for help. So why the massive shift? Well, you have to remember who Geoffrey was writing for. He basically repackaged the wild Celtic hero into a noble, tragic king that his new, chivalrous audience could really look up to.
So when we piece all of this together, what we see is that the Avalon we all picture today wasn't born from a single story. Nope, it was built over centuries, layer by layer, from all these different cultures and traditions. I mean, think about the journey this one island's name has been on. It starts as a simple land of gold. Then it becomes a master forge. Then it's a battlefield for a Welsh hero. And finally, it transforms into the magical, healing paradise that Geoffrey of Monmouth cemented in all our minds.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The real story of Avalon is a story of evolution. It pulled in ideas from French poetry, ancient Roman geography, and really deep-rooted Welsh mythology. Each storyteller just added a new layer, creating the rich, complex legend we have today.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The story of Avalon shows us that myths are rarely just made up out of thin air. They're usually these beautiful patchworks of much older, often forgotten tales. How many other legends that we think we know inside and out are really just the final chapter of a much deeper, much more ancient story?